The FBI is investigating a series of attacks on U.S. power grids. In North Carolina, thousands were left without power for days after gunfire damaged two substations. Shots were also fired this week near an energy facility in South Carolina, and recent attacks were reported in Oregon and Washington state. For more, let's bring in Scott Sweetow with nearly 3 decades at the ATF and FBI. Scott is a former federal investigator. With these new reported incidents in North Carolina, the Pacific Northwest, does the evidence suggest a broader conspiracy?
I wouldn't say conspiracy necessarily when you're talking about the same people being involved, but there's absolutely been an uptick in these kinds of incidents, actually over 100 just this year alone in the first 8 or 9 months, according to the Department of Energy.
Wow, that's a huge number. It's sort of striking that I guess it's really the attention of North Carolina that's brought it to the fore.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it takes sometimes a spectacular incident like this, or the 2013 attack in Metcalfe, California, which caused over $15 million damage to a PG&E facility, to really focus the attention of the public and the federal government to maybe do something about this.
So let's talk again about the North Carolina case. They've recovered some shell casings. Is that a significant piece of evidence?
It is, for a couple of reasons, Catherine. So first of all is the NIBIN system. It's the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. It's run by ATF, and it's a network of hundreds of machines where shell casings from around the United States are gathered. The other thing would be touch DNA. A lot of people don't realize that you leave DNA on shell casings when you're loading magazines. So investigators really have this NIBIN network and DNA potentially to go on.
So they could trace the weapon perhaps through the shell casings.
Well, certainly you'll know what kind of firearm it is. You'd be able to identify pretty well what sort of firearm it is. And my understanding is there were more than 20 shell casings left behind. So you'd also know whether there was more than one firearm found and whether it's been linked to previous crimes.
Let's talk about this element of potential premeditation. Power grids are complex. Does it appear that this individual or individuals had significant knowledge of the power grid to take out that key component that blacked out that huge section of North Carolina?
I would say you're really left with one of two things. Either they got lucky because they fired a lot of bullets, or they knew the piece of equipment to attack. Obviously, once we find the people that are involved in this, we'll have a better idea. But it's somewhat disturbing that they happen to hit some particularly vulnerable and very expensive, more difficult to replace items as opposed to just vandalism type damage.
Scott Sweetow, thanks.
Thank you, Catherine.